Yes, thank you for that introduction. So, January 24th, 2018, chapel, and you are here, and I will remember. Or at least I have some people who wrote it down so that I can. And I was going to ask them to stand, but they already did. So, you know, my topic today is unassigned, and for me that's dangerous. I have difficulty getting my thoughts organized at the best of times. And on the one hand, I want to tell you something that you've never heard before so that you'll remember it. But on the other hand, I want to tell you something that you've heard many times since you've been here at York College so that you will remember it. Can I do both? Well, I brought something. You know what this is? This is a .45. Does not take bullets. This is a 45 RPM record. This is how we scored music to listen to back in the last century. And this particular record was released on January 12th, 1968. Remember that date. One thing that reminds you that you belong to the older generation is if this is how you listened to music when you were a teenager. Another is when your oldest child turns 40, or your oldest grandchild becomes a teenager, both of which happened to Mrs. Good and me this past year. But I say that only so I can introduce our youngest grandchild, born on January 13th. His parents, and I guess him too, live in Belgium. So we were introduced on FaceTime. And naturally, one of the first things we learned was his name, Quinn. And since that's not the name of anyone in our family, my first thought, or maybe it was just the weather, went to that Manfred Mann hit song, Quinn the Eskimo, released, you guessed it, January 12th, 1968. One line in that song says, when Quinn the Eskimo gets here, everybody's going to jump for joy. And that's just what we did. 50 years and one day after the record was released, our mighty Quinn finally arrived. Now, when stuff like that happens to you, you may ask yourself, was that a coincidence? Or was it a God thing? Well, I'm willing to chalk the last one up to coincidence, but I want to tell you about a couple instances in my life that I definitely put in the category God at work. Well, I guess let's see one more picture of Quinn. And then we have one more picture that's not of Quinn, and I will tell you about it. If you go about 4 miles south from where I was born, you will come to a place that looks like this. As far as you can see to the east and to the west, it looks like someone has cut a 20-foot wide swath through the forest, which is exactly what has happened. This is the 49th parallel. It forms 1,260 miles of the 5,525 miles of border between the USA and Canada. Since I was born north of the 49th, I am Canadian. And just for the record, please stand if you were born somewhere other than the United States of America. Corey Sons. I know there's several. Okay. So we have something in common. And I guess we have something else in common. And we're going to talk about that, why we're here. So let's jump ahead to 2002. Mrs. Good, who was born in Oklahoma, and I are living in Canada, back in the neighborhood where I was born. But two of our kids had come to York College, and we had friends who worked at the college. So one time we were here visiting, and there was a job opening at YC. So Mrs. Good applied for the job, and she was hired. And she moved down here to start her new job. And there I was, left back in Canada. But then one day I went to the post box, and what did I find? A U.S. passport with my name and picture in it. That's the short version. The slightly longer version is that when we started looking at options for me to legally move to the States, I discovered that I had always been a U.S. citizen. I just had to claim that citizenship. I had the right combination of ancestors. It was their gift to me, or God's. One more jump in time, back to another January story, 1974. I was a senior, beginning my final semester at Oklahoma Christian. As a freshman at Western Christian in Saskatchewan, Canada, I had not always done my best, and I'd failed English Lit. So now in my final semester, I still needed English Lit to graduate. Before Christmas, I pre-enrolled in the class I needed, taught by a professor I respected. In those days, we didn't have emails to not check. We had bulletin boards. And so many students had signed up for English Lit. I guess a lot of people must have flunked. They had to split the class in two. But I didn't check the bulletin board to find out that I had been placed in the other class with a different professor. So I just went to the class I thought I was supposed to. That's the short version. The very much longer version includes the fact that there was a young lady in the class who I asked for a date, and who, by the way, was hoping that I would. And 44 years later, we're still together, counting grandchildren. Quinn is number 7, and number 4, Sadie, has a birthday today, her 4th. And you won't ever convince me that failing English Lit or going to the wrong class was not a God thing. 44 years ago, we never dreamed we would ever live in York, Nebraska. Even 17 years ago, it never crossed our mind. But here, 16 years later, we're living in York, Nebraska. But what about you? Why are you at York College? First question, are you in an English Lit class? But maybe you're here because it's your family's heritage. Or maybe you're one of those many who 1 or 2 or 3 years ago had never heard of York, Nebraska, let alone York College. Whatever else brought you here, I believe you were here because God wants you here. Look at the border picture again. Which side is the U.S. and which is Canada? I didn't take this picture, and actually I don't really know. But it depends which way you're facing. If you're facing east, Canada is on the left. But if you're facing west, it's the U.S. on the left. And that's like life. What you see depends on which way you're facing. So whatever goals you set, whatever dreams you dream, whatever borders you cross, do it with your face toward God, and He will take you places you would never have imagined. Proverbs 19:21 says, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." So today, see the world through God's eyes. See your life through God's eyes. And today, or someday down the road when you are confronted by one of life's big questions, remember chapel, January 24th, 2018, and ask yourself, which way am I facing?